The question is that these bills be now read a second time. I call the member for Fadden.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to join my coalition colleagues in unilaterally condemning and opposing the bill, noting the second reading amendments that will be moving to call on the government to scrap this invidious, dreadful, electricity-rising, job-destroying, nation-unbuilding carbon tax. If there was ever proof that this government is in complete and utter chaos, this bill stands alone as testimony to that. Since implementing the carbon tax, the government has made 8 major changes. 8. It's bailed out major companies using taxpayer funds on the eve of the carbon tax being introduced, including funding to Energy Bricks and Alcoa. It's decreased the share of clean tech investment grant funding for small businesses so as to further increase funding for big business. The Clean Energy Regulator has added more business to this ever-growing big polluters list, taking the total now to some 315, yet it wouldn't surprise me if it changes on a daily basis. It's changed the regulations to include real emissions from pipelines and landfill by 1 million tonnes. It's abandoned the contract for closure program to shut down power stations, which will mean the carbon tax will have to increase to achieve the same emissions reductions, and the Lord only knows how much money was spent prior to the shutdown on this program. Scrap the floor price, which was to have been $15 from 2015. The government has said, or had said, a floor price was needed for business confidence. Apparently not now. It's linked the scheme to the European system, which does not allow a two-way trade on carbon credits, putting Australian businesses at a distinct disadvantage and resulting in Australia's carbon tax being set by the EU price. And it's halted the clean technology investment grants. This came just weeks after the grants were announced and then changed. 8 substantial changes in 3 months after this government had years to get it right in their own mind. The government has lost control of the carbon tax. It frankly does not know what it's doing, evidenced by its policy on the run. It is making ad hoc changes at will. More policy on the run from a government that is incompetent, that is divided, and as yesterday shows clearly, not only with a collapse in polling numbers, but the resignation of its caucus chair, and then a spirited and hyperbole-based defence of the indefensible, disgusting behaviour of the former Speaker Slipper, only for him to resign hours later. This government is incompetent, it is divided, it is directionless. You only have to ask the question, why was the floor price dropped now and linked to the EU? Why? Why now? Why at this point in time was that decision made? And the answer lies not in good public policy, but the answer lies, as it so often does with this divided government. It answers, or it is answered, in the haunting spectre of Kevin, the member for Griffith. Because as part of his bid to build numbers to challenge the Prime Minister, he said he would drop the floor price and link it through to the EU. And short of any other compelling notion as to why now this would be done, the only logical conclusion is to sweep the floor away from Kevin, so that the member for Griffith is denied one more point of differentiation away from the Prime Minister. Public policy on the run because of a potential challenge to the Prime Minister. This government walked into this House and said this was about business confidence, about confidence to tackle climate change and the so-called extreme natures of it. And now we're seeing policy on the run, not for business confidence, not to deal with the extremes or so-called extremes of climate change, but to deal with the threat of the member for Griffith on the lodge. Puerile at the very best. And what is the impact of all this in my home state of Queensland? The Electricity Price Regulator, the Queensland Competition Authority, has announced massive increases in power prices from July 1, which will add $120 to the average household power bill. Power prices have now soared by 60% since the Labor state government promised, or the former Labor state government promised, that deregulation of the industry would put downward pressure on prices. Perversely, the cost increase was pushed higher because Queenslanders used less power over the summer, so the generator didn't maximise their return on investment, so sought permission and was granted to increase the price. So because less power was used over Christmas, i.e. Queenslanders saved power, they didn't use as much, the generator didn't make its profit targets and the price went up. I thought the intent was to stop using power. I thought the intent was to take us and wean us away from using power. But it turns out the less power we use, the higher the price goes on. The level of perversity within the government's legislation, its basis and its rationale has reached new and startling heights. Queenslanders, and all Queenslanders, are paying more because of this government's carbon tax. The South Australian regulator made it exceptionally and explicitly clear more is being paid because of the carbon tax, a tax the Prime Minister categorically promised that she would not introduce just days before the last election. That promise was broken. It is a tax based on a lie. Be under no doubt about that at all. The main purpose of this bill, which contains up to 7 bills, is to remove the legislated floor price out of the carbon tax and link us with the European ETS. An ETS where the price for permits is somewhere around $8, give or take. What's ours? Oh, $23. The level exceptions within the European scheme means that the average Australian is paying something like 400 times more than the average European because of the way our scheme is constructed. The bills will increase the carbon unit auction limit from 15 to 40 million for 15-16, alter the arrangements applying an equivalent carbon price for liquid fuels and synthetic greenhouse gases, make amendments concerning the measurements of potential greenhouse gas emissions, and make amendments concerning natural gas liabilities. Just 3 months in to the carbon tax, major structural changes. Context is important as we debate the high farce of this tax and its multiple amendments. You see, on no fewer than 11 occasions the government affirmed categorically its commitment to the floor price as a crucial piece of the carbon tax legislation. 11 times. But that, of course, was before the member for Griffith started getting momentum to challenge for the Lodge. On the 13th of September 2011, the Prime Minister said in this place, and I'll quote her, "The bill also provides for a price cap and a price floor to apply for the first 3 years of the floating price period. This will limit market volatility and reduce risk for business as they gain experience in having the market set the carbon price." So apparently now that the rationale for setting it for 3 years to limit market volatility, apparently that rationale has disappeared, has it? Now we've swept the floor away. Does that actually mean there'll be less or more market volatility? Or does it mean the government doesn't care as long as Kevin doesn't have the keys to the Lodge? On the 9th of November 2011, a mere 3 weeks later, the Prime Minister said during an interview, "Well, we have set a floor and a cap so that there can be stability in pricing, but by internationally linking the scheme, we will see the Australian price linked to the global price when we move to the emissions trading scheme in 3 years' time. But we think it was appropriate because people are making long-term investments to have a band in which the price will move, so we've got the benefits of linking with the international price, but also the benefits of stability." So within 3 weeks, the Prime Minister said, keeping a floor price will limit market volatility. It will establish stability. How can this government now walk in and sweep away the floor price when they have nailed their colours to the floor to say the floor price is needed for stability and to limit market volatility? What they're saying is we don't care about market volatility, we don't care about stability, all we care about is the member for Griffith promised to do this as part of his bid for numbers to challenge the Prime Minister. To sweep that away, we're going to do it as well, regardless of the instability, regardless of the market volatility, the two issues the Prime Minister said were needed, they apparently aren't important anymore a mere 9 to 10 months later. Similarly, on the 12th of July this year, the Minister for Climate Change, Greg Combet, said, well, we've put in a floor price and a price cap to provide some confidence over the first few years about the potential variability of the price. So we now have, it's about stability, it's about limiting market volatility, it's about confidence, or it was about those things. Mr Combet then said on the 21st of August, we have legislated the floor price, that's quite well known. I'm discussing with the European Union the linkage of our schemes. It's an issue in those discussions, but we are committed to the arrangements we have legislated. Well, apparently not, Minister Combet. Apparently you're not that committed to limiting market volatility, to stability, to confidence, as long as the member for Griffith is knocking at the lodge. On the 28th of September, a mere number of days, or 28th of September 2011, the Minister Combet said of the floor price, this will reduce risks for business as they gain experience in having the market set the carbon price. Despite 8 changes since 1 July, Minister Combet claimed the carbon tax was bang on track. The government doesn't know what it's doing. It talks of stability, it talks of confidence, it talks of limiting market volatility, and then it changes it all, as if those words meant nothing. The government can't be trusted on major policies. Their track record is clear on this. They can't be trusted in terms of the words they used. They were committed to all of these issues of stability and confidence, and apparently now they're not. If they had articulated an argument that said we can deal with the issues of stability, of confidence, of limiting market volatility, we can deal with those things that required a floor for 3 years, we could deal with those through these other mechanisms by linking the schemes, perhaps there would be a shred of credibility. But nothing. No engagement, no rationale, no discussion, no explanation to the Australian people as to why 6 to 12 months ago the floor price was fundamental for stability, confidence and limiting market volatility, but now it's not important at all. Because in the last 12 months, can I say, Europe has gone backwards, China's growth has slipped to just above 7.1%, Brazil's economy is slipping. We're now apparently the 12th largest economy in the world because 3 economies above us, their growth has stifled. But apparently issues of stability, confidence and market volatility are no longer important. There is a human face to this discussion. Ernest and Marjorie Clark, retirees in my electorate, Runaway Bay Retirement Village, where hundreds of others are, came in with their first power bill. It showed their off-peak power had gone up by 25.5%, their peak power by 14%.